So tell us who you are, where we are.
Okay, so yeah, I'm David Chalfen. I'm an endurance coach with Highgate Harriers. So I've been with the club now for 3.5 years. And the session this morning is it's a kind of thresholdish session on quite heavy going at Heath Extension in North London. Okay, so I think you've all seen the session. It's 2 reps of 2 times a mile. The first mile, I called it marathon pace, marathon effort. I know the terrain and many of you aren't marathon runners, but it's basically it is a talking pace. So you should be able to converse while you're doing it. It's strong side steady, such that for the second mile you should be able to pick it up by 20 seconds, maybe 25 seconds for the mile. So a stronger second mile, but obviously you need to keep plenty in the tank on the first loop. So 2 of those with 75 seconds to regroup, cut the corner on the second mile if you're falling behind, and then 3 slightly quicker reps, 4.5 minutes, that will get most of you 1300, 1400 on the same loop, and then a 90 second to jog and regroup for the next rep. They'll all start here, so it's 2 times 2 miles, 3 times 4.5 minutes, so pretty chunky, but it's a kind of pre-southern sort of session, but not so hard that you leave your southern here this morning. Yeah. Okay. So again, this is a regular session. So Saturday is longer, stodgier stuff, and usually it counterbalanced with Tuesday, which is typically a faster session at the track. Yeah, many clubs do this across the world, and have been doing it for years. Yeah, the group thing. One way or another, I think people get more out of the sport if they're in a club and if they do some amount of training with a group. I mean, enjoyment and performance, big spectrum of it. I mean, I'm in this group. There'll be people who are perfectly happy doing loads of their structured, fast stuff on their own, and they'll thrive with it. There'll be other people for whom the other people and the social side, the group side, the camaraderie is absolutely all consuming. And yeah, because I've kind of been in the sport a long time, I've seen that there's a spectrum of it. So I guess you always keep it going, because for most people it will serve them well. Okay, so you have a few seconds to pick up. Mile. Because I started the sport very young, I would still say like the big change, certainly in the UK, for the evolution of distance running as a popular activity slash sport. It was the London Marathon that was a huge trigger for that, and for some people who might remember, even slightly before that was a Sunday Times fun run through the mid to late 70s. That was a 4K run. Um, Broadly, I would say that up to the about 1981, athletics was certainly long distance running was a high performance sport. Most people did it, and the ones that did it fairly full on. And you did it as a youngster, maybe as an adult, until you were kind of 35 to 40, and then you'd probably stop because there wasn't much for you. Um, London Marathon opened up things hugely to wider age groups, particularly veterans. It did also, maybe this is wider history. The number of women, the percentage of women who took up running and kind of got into running changed very significantly over those decades, 80s and 90s. Um, and I suppose the club scene now, again, I'll generalize, and there's loads of kind of shades of grey that the book explores. That typically now you've got athletics clubs and you've got running clubs, and from what I've seen, pretty much every borough, every local authority, it sees an athletics club, but very rarely 2, and it always has a running club. And more now, this is call it the second wave, third wave. I lose track, but there's now almost like another tier of more purely recreational running clubs. So if you use London as the example, then we would say in London you've got Serpentine, you've got Clapham and Chasers, who were new breed running clubs, total marathon based. And as they've done kind of better and got bigger and bigger, there seems to have been a newer influx of runners who perceive, maybe not entirely accurately, that Serpentine or Chasers are kind of too good, too big, too fast for them. So they started smaller clubs usually, a further kind of tier removed from the kind of traditional Harrier stuff that the guys behind me are doing. So coaching for me, I mean, I did it. I evolved into it in a fairly traditional way, in that I'd been a kind of mid pack runner, but I got injured and couldn't run anymore. And so the sport itself, the activity, the people, the events, the experiences, it was kind of ingrained in me, and I felt I needed to be kind of involved in it in a fairly close way, because it's very exciting. So coaching was a fairly inevitable pathway for me to get into. Um, because I've now been doing coaching for just over 20 years, more and more, you get older, you reflect. So more and more, I think, what makes the sport is people and its experiences. And, just a few minutes earlier, we were talking about results and the news show about times and splits and paces. And of course, it's incredibly exciting seeing people run very, very fast and seeing it measured and watching the speed they go up. But eventually, I think when you look back, or I will look back, these are the people that I meet and have met in the sport. These are the things I've witnessed, and so yeah, coaching kind of keeps me right at the heart of that. And obviously, the more you kind of committed to it, the more you kind of in a position where you can kind of soak these things up. Still got 30 seconds. Just loop around here. Most of the volunteer roles, people do it because they like being part of it. They like the people. Um, I mean, there is an element of goodwill, and that some people have this far greater than me. And I give the example of officiating. So I haven't done officiating because I just don't find it that exciting. But I know people far greater runners than I was ever got near to do. But they officiate, and what drives them is because if they don't do it, it won't happen. We're talking about, track and field. We're talking about track and field and athletics. It's incredibly resource-hungry sport. It's evolving, and there are certainly a lot of signs that track and field, the full spectrum of events, it's incredibly hard to resource them with volunteers. So either events evolve, or people have to volunteers need some sort of payment, and therefore the sport, the cheapness of the sport, which is pretty much its great attractions, that might start evolving / getting a bit diluted over time. So yes, it's highly volunteer based, which is its strength, and as many people will say, I think that's mentioned in the book, that's one of the threats to it carrying on in quite the way it has been. Supposed heartland of the audience is kind of club runners, in a wide sense, and the more I kind of wrote about it and thought about it, and this just sounds a bit arrogant, it's not meant to, but the more I thought about it, basically I think I write well about athletics and running and the sport and the people and the events, and I've got loads of feedback that says people have really liked it. And I've had literally this you have to take my word for this, I've had like complete strangers who put together emails saying it just captured XYZ across quite a range of things. So what I think are like the heartland bits of the book, other people have picked up other bits and said it was particularly this or particularly that. So so it is a diverse book. It's intentionally a diverse book. It's mainly not about me because I'm not that interesting. It's mainly about things I've seen or been part of, people I've known. And I mean, the sport, we've kind of touched on it. The sport it's potentially very exciting. And yeah, across the wider public, it's not really that appreciated. It's another kind of, it's become kind of entertainment style vehicles. So what I'm trying to convey, amongst other things, through the book is that the tradition of long distance running, middle distance running, track and field. I mean, there's quite a few bits about track and field there. I think it's incredibly exciting. I've got bits about javelin throwing and mixed relays. If you're watching the best people in the world do a very, very pure sport, the Greeks thing, fast, faster, higher, stronger. To me, it's because I grew up in it. It's like, why doesn't everybody like it as much as we do? Well, it sounds like we're just deluded, but